Turkish get-up's been one of the most highly requested technique videos I've received since starting this channel. And today I'm going to break the whole thing down for you step by step. Let's dive in. First things first, when we start the Turkish get-up, we actually want to make sure that the kettlebell's handle is nice and tight to our chest here before we roll to our back. Very common mistake I see beginners make is having the kettlebell out and away from here, and they put all this stress on their elbow and their shoulder as they roll. Rather than starting here and putting stress in your shoulder, pull that kettlebell in nice and tight to the chest, roll to your back, then press up and overhead. Step 2. Once you're flat on your back, I want you to notice that I have the body of the bell stacked over the shoulder, and whatever hand is up overhead, I have that same foot planted flat on the ground. Now here's what beginners tend to get mixed up with the Turkish get-up. They hear the word up and they think sit up, but the Turkish get-up is actually a rolling pattern, which is the whole reason why we have this foot planted flat on the ground in the first place. We're actually going to push off of that foot and roll over to the opposite shoulder. While you're doing this, you want to make sure your eyes are always on the body of the kettlebell, and once you're over to your shoulder, you're going to dig your elbow into the ground like a spike, using your hand pretending like you're dragging across the floor, and then you're going to come up to your elbow like so. Now once you're up to your elbow, we actually need to create clearance. So we need to prop ourselves up on our hands so that we create some space to slide our leg underneath. This is how we do that. So picking up where we left off, we're gonna go ahead and plant our hand firmly, press in, and then from here we wanna go ahead and do a hip bridge motion, almost like you're picking your underwear out of your ass. Got it, wedgie. To make this happen, we're gonna drive through our foot here and raise our hips up towards the sky, like so. Now this is where things get really important. We wanna slide this straightened leg underneath us here. When you're in this position, we should see a straight line going from hand to knee to ankle. Another common mistake beginners make is they just do a side bend from this half kneeling position straight up. And while you can get away with this with the light kettlebell, as the kettlebells get heavier, you're really going to want to start to shift your hip back towards your heel. By shifting your hips back towards your heel, you can actually get your hips underneath the weight. And once your hips underneath the weight, you can use your legs to drive up, pivot on that back knee so you're on railroad tracks moving forward in a lunge position, and stand all the way up to finish off the movement. And when I say finish off the movement, that's actually the halfway point. We still got to do the same thing in reverse. So now that we're on our feet, we want to keep in mind that whatever hand we have the kettlebell in, we also want that knee up, like so. Now if here we're going to pivot on this bottom knee so our toe faces their front heel. And because we don't want to take our eyes off the bell, you can go ahead and feel your own thigh as you reach down, sending your butt back towards your heel, making sure you have your hand, your knee, and your heel all in a straight line. Now once our hand finds the ground, we need to create clearance so we can sit that kneeling leg through. And we create that clearance by sliding this bottom leg through and doing that hip bridge again, driving through the leg on the same side we're holding the kettlebell. Kettlebell's in right hand, driving through my right foot. Now from here, we're just gonna go ahead and drop our butt to the ground, and this is a super important portion of the movement. Because remember what I said in the very beginning of this video about the Turkish get-up being a rolling pattern and not a sit-up? If you do a reverse sit-up from here, you're going to lose control of your kettlebell overhead. And as you can imagine, that would lead to a seriously sore shoulder. So rather than doing a reverse sit-up, I want you to think about opening your chest up and rolling over to the downside elbow. Once in this position, you have two options. Option one, you can either go ahead and roll to the outside of your arm onto the shoulder before coming across the back, which works well for some people but feels a little bit awkward for me personally. Or you can think about rolling along the back side of your tricep here, which if you're like me feels really smooth. Now let's put it all together. Step one, pull the kettlebell nice and tight to the chest. Once you're here, you're going to roll to your back, and whatever hand you're holding the kettlebell in will be the same foot that is down, like so. Step two, roll. Make sure you're not sitting up. We want to press hard through this foot here and drag our hand across the ground over to the elbow. We're going to come up onto the hand, hip bridge up, and slide the bottom leg through. Remember, we're looking for that straight line for our hand, knee, and ankle. Step three, we're going to go ahead and set our butt back towards our heel, making sure we get our hips underneath the bell. That way we can use our hips to drive upward, pivot on that back knee so we're on railroad tracks, and now we're up at the top. And on the reverse, remember if bell is in right hand, right knee is up. Once we're here, we're going to pivot on the knee, making sure we run our hand down the leg, finding that straight line between our hand, our knee, and our ankle. Sit the butt back towards the heel. We're going to sit our leg through, and once we have found our butt onto the ground here, we roll over to the elbow, slowly rolling along the back of the tricep and or the outside portion of the shoulder, back to the starting position, bringing the kettlebell down with both hands safely and rolling to our side to finish. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a quick and dirty breakdown of the Turkish get-up. And if you found this breakdown helpful, smash that subscribe button and I'll see you on the next one.